Welcome, I'm Tom Jones and welcome to another free art lesson. I'm going to have another exciting episode for you. I'm going to show you an easy way to do autumn trees. As you can see on my paper, I've added some frisket. I scrubbed some of it in with the side of my brush. I used a number 8 round brush in this case. I would suggest that you use either a number 8 or number 10 round brush, preferably a synthetic, not one of your good brushes, but one of the El Cheapos that you don't worry about messing up. Then what you want to do is just kind of scrape it in with the side of your brush, something like this. Then what you want to do is take some of that frisket and just splatter it as I've done. This will create some highlights here and there on the edge of that tree. The reason for it is I want to protect the edge of the tree because when I pull that frisket off, I'm going to have the white space where that frisket is. It's going to create the look of a highlight hitting the edge of my tree, and that's exactly what I want. Let me go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with some of my nice bright yellow. These are going to be autumn leaves and autumn colors. So I'm going to come in and just going to scrub in some yellow like this. It's going to be light to dark. So this side's going to be lighter. I'm going to have some nice bright yellow on this side over here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean out my brush. I'm going to pick up some of my nice light red. This is a permanent red light. And I'm going to come in and just put in just a little bit of that color. I can splatter it in there. I'm not worried about going outside the lines for the simple reason that I'm going to have another color on the outside that'll showcase the edge of this autumn tree. I'm going to come over now and get a little bit of my sienna color, and we'll put a little bit of that sienna color in there just for a little fun. I've got a little bit of my quinacridone rose, and I'll add just a touch of ultramarine blue deep to it to get even a little darker. So I've got a little more contrast. See how colorful that tree has become now? All of a sudden go back and get a little bit more of my sienna color, a little bit more of my quinacridone rose and ultramarine or ultramarine blue deep. See how I've done that? Look at the variety of color going on. So I started out with some lemon yellow. I went to my light red, my permanent red light. Then I went to a little bit of my sienna. Then I took a little bit of my quinacridone rose, added just a touch of the ultramarine blue deep to give a nice violet color, and now I've got that color going on. Remember, there are many colors in autumn. It's not just one color. So explore and experiment with it. Have a lot of fun with it. Now what I need to do is I'll dry this quickly. Then I'll come in and I'll put a dark color around the outside of the tree. We'll remove the frisket, put some finishing touches on it. This is really a quick lesson plan, but this is an easy way to paint autumn trees. Stay with me while I dry it. Now the painting is completely dry. Now I can go to the next stage. I'm going to come in around the outside of my tree that I just painted, and I'm going to go ahead and put a darker color to showcase this tree. Before I do that, I'm going to pull off some of this frisket. That frisket has helped protect this edge here so that I didn't get a lot of my colors in that area that I didn't want. Now I can actually start showcasing the edge of this tree very nicely with some dark colors. In this case, I'll come in and I'll add in some blue with my quinacridone rose. We'll do that. We'll start with that color. We'll come in and we'll change color. We'll pick up some of my hooker green deep. I'll add some dark blue to that, some of my ultramarine blue deep. And we'll have a little bit of that color. See how I'm changing colors now to make the background more interesting? I'll come back in, I'll take a little bit of cerulean blue, and just for fun I'll add a little cerulean to it. I'll come in and pick up a little bit of my Prussian blue and add just a little bit of that color. Now what I want to do is I'm going to take my smaller brush and I'm going to come in close to the edge of these trees. I'm going to take the brush and I'm going to pull it toward me. When I do that, some of the hairs will come away from the edge of the body of this brush and I'll create a leafy look to the edge of the tree. Watch what happens. And all I'm doing is just pulling that color to me and I'm creating this leafy edge to my tree. And I'll show you another little trick that I'll use to create even a more leafy look. But see how I'm getting the edge of this tree now? Watch what I do. I'm going to take some of this color on my brush and I'm going to tap it against my finger up close to the particular tree, and look what happens, how I'm getting a leafy edge on the edge of this tree. See that? How simple that is? those dots are creating a leafy edge to my trees so that I don't have a hard edge everywhere. See how simple that is? I'll continue on painting. I'll pick up my larger brush again. I'll mix some more of my blue and a little bit more of my quinacridone rose, and we'll come in and continue on painting. See how interesting that is? So I've got a nice highlight going on at the edge of this tree now. Change color again. Clean out my brush, a little bit of my dark blue, a little bit of my hooker green, and all of a sudden we can change color again. Same idea. We'll come into the edge, create the edge of that tree again. An easy way to paint autumn trees. Look at that. See how simple that is? Then what we'll do is we'll come in, take a little bit more of our quinacridone rose, a little bit more of our blue, and change color again. So we have a little more variety of color going on here. We'll come back and pick up, I'll clean out my brush, we'll pick up a little cerulean blue and throw a little bit of cerulean blue into the mix. Clean out my brush again, pick up some of my Prussian blue, put that in the mix. Come back in, and again, create the edge of this tree. Now I'm going to switch to my smaller flat brush. I'm going to go back to this particular brush, which is my 3/4 inch brush, and I'm going to go ahead and continue with a little bit more splatter at the edge of this tree. And see how realistic that makes it look now? Isn't that interesting? You can have a lot of fun with this. Don't get too carried away with it. And don't do it in the center, just at the edge of your tree. If you do it in the center, it defeats the purpose. You want a leafy edge to the edge of that tree. So that's exactly what we're doing. I want to come down to a smaller brush as well because I'm going to get into a smaller area that I'm going to need to work here. Back to my palette, more blue, more green. Come back in here and start carving out. Now look what I'm doing around the tree trunks. I'm going to do what's called negative painting. I'm going to leave the tree trunks lighter, so I'm going to come in with my dark and I'm going to simply paint around those tree trunks. Change color again. I put down some bluish green. I'm going to come back with a little bit of my blue and quinacridone, and we'll change color again. Having a little fun with that. I'm creating the edge of the grass at the same time, using a little negative painting. See how I'm doing that? Just with the edge of my brush, just simply creating a little bit of an edge to those edges of the grass right there. Come back, I'm going to switch now to my round brush. I'm getting into another small area over here. So I'll take my round brush. Anytime I'm working in smaller areas, I usually will go to a smaller brush. In this case, this is fairly small, so I want to use my round brush in this case. Again, I'm painting in between the area of the tree branches and tree trunks. So I'm trying to keep this as delicate as possible with a smaller brush. Over here, and you can see now how the tree trunks have popped right out, haven't they? Okay, we can create the grass the same way even with a round brush. It's that simple. All of a sudden we got this area of the tree over here going for us now. Okay, how easy that was. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and put a little area in this grass down here. I'll dry it one more time, and then there's one little thing, finishing touch, and it's all done. So let me come down here, put in just a little bit of color into this grass area. Let me make sure it's clean. I got a little muddy there with my color, so let me take my time. Come back, we'll take a little bit of the yellow. We'll come in and have a little fun with that yellow. We can even do this again with our little spray bottle. Watch this. I can take a little bit of the color and have a little fun that way. But remember, we've got that much autumn color up here in the tree. We better have it in the ground as well, hadn't we? So we'll need just a little bit of this color down here so we have some color harmony going on. You don't want just that warm color in the tree, otherwise your colors would bounce from one subject matter to the other. We want to have a little color harmony going on. So that's how easy that is. If we want, we can take up here and dry this first, and then I'm going to put a little finishing touch up here, and then we'll put a finishing touch there, and that's all we'll need for this particular exercise. Now the painting is completely dry, and that's what it should be to put the finishing touches on. I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to add a little bit darker area to this side of the autumn tree and a little bit in the foreground, and I might even have a little bonus for you at the end, a little extra thing I'll do for you. So let me take, in this case, let me take my 1-inch flat brush. I'm going to take some of my, let me clean out a little bit of that area there. I'm going to take some of my cerulean blue, my burnt sienna, a little bit of my ultramarine blue deep, a touch of my quinacridone rose, and I want to get a nice, rich, interesting color here. I'm going to play with a couple of different ideas until I get what I want, but I want a nice, interesting color arrangement here. So I'm going to work with some nice autumn color. And I want a little bit darker look on this one side of the tree over here. So once I get it, I'll know I have it. So let me try just a little bit more here. Okay. I'm going to come in now, and I'm going to put a little bit of a darker color on this side of the tree. I may even go down to a little smaller brush where I have a little more control. I'm going to go down to my 3/4 inch brush, and then I'm going to scrape in just a little bit of this autumn color to this side of the tree, just to get this a little darker on this side over here for a little contrast. Underneath this area here, it would be in shadow, so this area would be a little darker here as well, so you wouldn't see quite that much light underneath that leaf area. Covering some of that up, okay, right there. Underneath there where the tree trunks are, some of that would be in shadow as well, so you wouldn't see the top parts of that being that light, so we've covered up some of that. Down here, we've got a little bit of this grass area, so let's come down here and put in just a little bit of our darker green, just for a little contrast down here. Not a lot, but just a little bit. So we'll have a little bit of that green area down here. Part of this underneath this particular tree in this area would be in shadow anyway, so we'll cover a little bit of that up. We don't want to cover up all of our warm colors over here, but this area over here would be in shadow. Just like that. Now what I want to do is just take one moment, take my brush, my script brush, and I'm going to add just a couple of finishing touches in the tree. Now normally this should be probably dry, but I think I can get away with this. I'm going to put in just a suggestion of the illusion of a couple of branches in this particular tree. And I think I can get away with that. Just a couple, not a lot. Just a suggestion that there are some branches in the tree. Now what I want to do, I'll just soften a couple of those edges. I don't want them to be that stark at the bottom. Then what I'll do is I'll come back in and give you a little bonus here. I want to show you something that you can do. Here's what I'm going to do. Notice that this area up here would typically be a tree area behind this particular tree. And if we want to indicate some trees, now normally in a real painting this would be painted all the way across, but let me take this particular brush, my number 8 round, a tissue. Watch what I do now. Let's suppose there is in fact a tree behind in the background back here, and watch what I can do now. That's just water on the brush, and I can put in a suggestion that there is in fact a tree back here somewhere. Watch what happens. I'm going to pat this, take another tissue that's light, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to just lift that color off and create the illusion that there's a tree back there. You can do more if you want to, but let's give them a friend, and we'll have another little tree back there. Pull it off, pat it first, and then lift out the color, and look what you can do. All of a sudden now you're starting to create a scene back there, a scene where there's more trees in the background. You can have a lot of fun with this. A couple of more tree branches here. See how easy that is? This is a simple way of doing autumn trees, a little bonus with the lifting for trees in the background. Notice the variety of color in the background. Notice the variety of color in the autumn trees. Notice the variety of color in the grass in the foreground. There's a little bit of frisket on here that I didn't remove. I'll leave it there for now. When I lift it off, there'd be a little highlight there. It would take some time to dry that with a hairdryer. But I think you got the entire picture on this one. Thank you very much for joining me. Please tell your friends about us. And welcome back on this art lesson, on this free art lesson. I hope you'll join us for more free art lessons in the future. My name is Tom Jones. Thanks again for joining me. I've had so much fun being with you today. Thank you.